Misfits, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share something very special with you. After hosting over 450 episodes of the Misfit Entrepreneur and sitting down with some of the world's top founders, investors, and high performers, I started to notice something. Different industries, different backgrounds, different paths, but the same patterns kept showing up. So I distilled those patterns into a short, powerful guide called The Misfit Code: 21 Uncomfortable Truths from 450 plus entrepreneurs. This isn't motivational fluff, it's not theory, and it's definitely not the recycled advice that you hear everywhere else. In fact, it's a fast paced, practical playbook that you can read in one sitting and then apply immediately to help you execute better, raise your standards, break through to your next level. And if you know you're capable of more, or you feel like you've outgrown where you are, or if you're tired of knowing what to do but not executing consistently, this guide was created for you. You can download it for free right now by going to misfitentrepreneur.com/truths. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/truths. Grab the guide, read it in one sitting, and then come back and work through one misfit truth per day. All right, with that said, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, Misfit Entrepreneurs. This is Dave Lukas, and welcome to another episode of the Misfit Entrepreneur, where it is our job to help you unleash your inner misfit and break through to higher levels of success, wealth, and fulfillment by bringing you the best insight and information from the world's top entrepreneurs, with a specific focus on their misfit side, the specific traits, habits, and secrets that allow them to thrive and succeed. As a reminder, if you're new to watching us on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button below. Give this video a like and comment as well. We do our best to respond to all comments as timely as possible. This week's Misfit Entrepreneur is Will Steele. Will is pretty amazing. He's had an incredible career. He's one of the world's most highly regarded transformational leaders. His path, though, is anything but typical. He graduated from the Royal Air Force College, Cranwell, with the Leadership Trophy. He then flew as a military pilot for 10 years in high-stakes operations all around the globe. He then flew commercially before making a radical career pivot into personal and professional development. He went on to spend 21 years leading one of the world's top transformational training programs, delivering programs to over 90,000 people across 26 countries in more than 18 different languages. And he's coached everyone from CEOs to entrepreneurs to even rocket scientists, world champion athletes, and even Tibetan monks. And so here's what makes Will different in my eyes, right? He believes that we're all prisoners of our own minds, and that the unidentified decisions that you made in your past are quietly limiting what's possible for you today. And his gift is really the ability to listen, not just to what you're saying, but to what you're not saying, and the background conversation that's actually shaping how you see the world. And so I asked Will to come on and show us how to really identify those invisible blocks that are holding us back, how to break through and free ourselves from those limiting beliefs that we don't even know we have, and what it really takes to produce breakthrough results in business and life. So let's jump to it. Will, are you ready to unleash your inner misfit?
Yes, Dave, ready, and can't wait to get going. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, it's exciting to have you on, and a pleasure. I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite topics to jump into. And kind of as I alluded to, you've got a heck of a story. So why don't you just take the first 5 minutes here and just tell us, how did you get to where you're at?
Yes, very good question. I mean, there's past beyond Royal Air Force College, Cranwell, right? So, I left school because I didn't think I was very smart book-wise. So I did an engineering apprenticeship. I thought that's grounded, that's solid. I started an engineering apprenticeship, mechanical, and then they said, will you do electrical, but not switch? Will you do both? So I did 2 apprenticeships as a technician, and then figured out I could go to university if I got the sufficient grades, and I got into university. And I was studying electronic engineering, and then found out about the Royal Air Force. They sent me this little brochure. You could join the University Air Squadron, blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, yeah, but they won't have me because I've not got the traditional route. I'm not gone to boarding school. I've not had that kind of upbringing. But I inquired about it, and they said, yeah, absolutely. Just apply. Just get your hair cut, take your earring out. You should be okay. Go for the interview. And I was like, okay. So I went along knowing nothing about flying or never been interested in it before. It was simply that they were offering 65 hours of free flying. So I went along for the interview, and they accepted me. I couldn't believe it. So I then started flying, and I couldn't believe it. And then And then about 2 years in, I went, wow, you get paid for this? By this stage, we were doing close formation. And I remember in this close formation, think, wow, this is amazing, right? And then we landed and went, right, I'm in. Where do I sign? And then I got into the Royal Air Force and became a pilot in the Air Force. And then I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted single seat Harriers. I think they call it HMB or HB2 in America, different name in America to the UK. And they're the aircraft that takes off vertically and then can go forward like that, single seat. So it was the creme de la creme, the best of the best. And I didn't get it. So I was like sulking for the next 3 or 4 years and just left the Air Force and went to be an airline pilot. I thought, well, I might as well get paid lots of money for doing what I can do. And then about 2 years in, I thought, this is not it. I'm being paid, but I'm really just a bus driver here with wings. And this is not really what I want to do, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I did this program, this transformational program called the Forum. And it didn't mean anything. I didn't get what I wanted. It didn't mean anything. It didn't mean I was a failure. It didn't mean I wasn't good enough. But then it goes all the way back to where all that kind of conversation started. And I just remember waking up the day after the course. I went through the whole course thinking, I'm in the wrong place. I'm not like these people. They've all got problems. I don't know why I'm even here. But the day after, I woke up and went, oh my God, wow. I remember this story. I'm like 3 years old and my dad's telling us all how I came along. He said, we couldn't afford a third baby. Then mum got pregnant and we thought, well, we got 2 boys. It'd be nice to have a little girl this time. So we're all looking forward to a little girl and you popped out. It should have been a girl. Everyone's laughing. It's like a funny story, except for me. It was like devastating because I heard they didn't want me and they really didn't want me because they wanted a girl. Right. I'm the best. So my life became about proving I'm the best to make up for this belief that I wasn't wanted. But I didn't go through life going, I don't feel wanted. I'm not wanted. I never even thought about it or languaged it. It was never there, but I was competitive. I was, had to go for or be the best at whatever I did. If I went for it, I was going to be the best at it, And I just thought, well, that's just how I am. And now you would think that's not a limiting belief. That's really good. Yeah, it produces results. Like everyone else's strategy for success produces results. But have you noticed when you produce a great result, it isn't long before it's like empty. It's like, oh, this is not really it. Okay, now you're looking around for the next big thing to go for. And you're only kind of really in life and excited about life when you're going for this thing. And, that's why and I've led programs to some of the richest people in the world. And, on the outside, it's fantastic. Everybody would want their life. On the inside, it's not. It's not like that. It's empty. It's unfulfilled. It's never enough. And in fact, when you produce a result, let's say you make that big deal and you make that big thing, or you win that trophy. In fact, I've got a friend who's a world boxing champion. And when you accomplish the thing you think is going to be it, then it's a reminder. It reminds you of what this thing's making up for. So unwittingly, it reminds you of the thing you think you're not. I asked my world, boxing champion, Billy, I said, what was it like when you won? I watched a video of his title fight. He said, it was just like, thank God for that. I don't have to do it anymore. Because it wasn't until he was like 30, he used to get cut. He used to get cut all around his eyes and stuff. Really, really good boxer. Really worked hard from 8 years old. But, it was just to prove something. What was he proving? Well, we got him in the program. 8 years old, his sister's got him pinned down, his older sister, and she's got long hair and she's dangling in his face and he can't get away from it. And he's like, I think he's weak. So he's now got to prove himself. In that way, he had to be a world boxing champion, and it still didn't fix that feeling inside. So when we say limiting beliefs, people think, no, I'm not limited. I can do anything. Yeah, okay. But you're limited to that way of acting in life, that way of being in life, like that kind of mindset. You're limited to that. And even though it produces great results, it never has you to just be yourself, just able to be you. You're this you that you've decided you need to be to make up for this you that you think you are or really are. And neither of them. It's all made up.
Exactly. That's the thing that sadly most people don't figure out, is that the subconscious is actually the most powerful part of the brain, and it runs us many times without us even knowing it. And so it's like you think you're acting out of your choice and all that stuff, where actually you're not. You're actually just following the program that, is either put there. And I always say, like, think of your mind like a giant filing cabinet. It's got all these files for, all the things that can come about in your life, to react to, basically. And so basically, when you hit a situation, it goes to the filing cabinet, it pulls out the file and says, oh, here's what I'm supposed to do this. Because most people like don't think about, like, where do my thoughts come from? Like, why did I choose that? Like, and a lot of that's conditioned there throughout the influence in their lives. Sister with the hair pinning them down, making them feel like a weakling. That's a driver behind the scenes. It's in the filing cabinet, that sort of thing. And so it's only when people start to recognize their behavior or those reactions, those automatic responses, if you will, that it start to look at them and actually ask, is this something I truly choose for myself, or is this something that I want to change for myself? And that's the key. And that's where the hard work begins. And so I'm kind of curious, and we'll kind of go right to it. But how does somebody, like, I have my way that I've developed to do
Yeah.
that, right? And it's a constant work in progress, and it's an everyday thing. It's not like a one and done thing. Like, but how does somebody start to put a process into their life to recognize things like that, change them to what they wanted to be, start to live from true choice and reach their true potential versus kind of being held back from, programming from the past in a way?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a perfect segue into talk about my book, right? Because I spent 14 months answering that question, exactly that question. How can I write a book that gives people access to what up to now it's taken me 3.5 days, of working with people to get them to get? How can I put that in a book? So I wrote the book, rewrote the book, rewrote the book, rewrote the book until I was really, and I had to put exercises at the end of almost every chapter. There's some exercise. And it's doing the exercises really that will get you to those bits that are hidden from your view that you can't see. So, Socrates, all the way back in ancient Greece, he would ask questions and people would inquire into those questions. They all sat there in a big gathering and, but what, who are you really? Well, Will, no, that's your name. Someone gave you that label. That's not who you are really. All right, well, I'm an Englishman. Well, you were born there. You just happened to be born there. Is that who you are, really? I guess not then. Oh, I'm an engineer. Well, that's what you do for a living, but is that who you are? And if you go down this tunnel far enough, you get to a place where you go, I have no freaking idea who I am. Good. Now we're at a place where we can really start to open up and discover something. Now, don't worry, the questions aren't that long in each chapter. They're quite simple, right? Like if you have an area right now where you notice that you're not fully freed up, you're not able to just say the things you want to say, or it might be in a meeting, it might be in your relationship, it might be, with the board, it might be with your boss if you've got a boss, it's like, or with certain people that you're just feel uncomfortable, or you don't feel, like you've got to get over something to express yourself or be yourself, and you just, you're constrained in some way. In those moments, you've got to get in. That's not the real you. That's what you were talking about, the reaction. Your brain is trying to survive. Your brain is trying to make it in that situation, trying to get you through, trying to, win the challenge, or whatever it is. So you will go into, you'll say things you've said before. You'll try and handle it the way you've handled it before. Reaching for things, go into your head and try and figure it all out. But none of that's just being you. See? But those are the opportunity to recognize that and go, oh, hang on, what's going on here? What does this remind me of? See, that's one of the questions that gets people on the map. What is this feeling? What's happening now? What does it remind me of from my past? I don't know. It's kind of like, my big brother. Yeah, he used to bully me. He used to tease me. Oh, okay. What was that like? Horrible. I hated it. Okay, good. And what did you think? He's horrible. Okay. And you're asking these questions to get to, what did it mean about you? What did it mean about the other? or the others in that moment, that part of your life. And what did it mean about life? Those are the three kind of, I ask those questions because they usually come up with something, right? And there could be more stuff there. But these decisions that we make, this interpretation that we have at the time that we make these decisions. Now, as we go through life, we gather more evidence. We might have more sophisticated answers. But if you get back to the language, if I can get the person back there, to there they are, they're 3-year-old, and who was there? Okay, my mum was there, dad was there. Where were you? We were in the kitchen. What happened? Mum and dad were shouting at each other. Good. Then what happened? Then mum picked up this big knife. Okay. And what happened then? I was really scared. And then what happened? You get the person back in the moment, then they're thinking what they were thinking in that moment, and then you can get it accurate.
Well, the other thing too, is you kind of say that, is some of the things that actually do have such an impact on us, when you get into them, sound ridiculous.
Yeah. So,
but it's stuff that people haven't dealt with and worked through that, they basically just have pushed off that it just continues to run them. And until you do, it's going to continue to do that. So even if it sounds absurd or ridiculous or something, so simple or just what seems like so logical to overcome and you haven't done it, that's okay, because, you got to deal with it, whatever it is.
Very, very much.
And
look, I've worked with people that, they've been raped or they've been beaten or, all sorts of things have happened to human beings. When you work with people all over the world, you hear about what people do to each other. Yeah. And so there are those kind of moments, obviously are traumatic and painful. But it's not what happened. Now, you might have some of that stored in your body as reflex, as kind of physical memory. But what really impacts people is what they decided. So there you are. You get a cheese sandwich and your brother gets the ham sandwich. And it's all it takes. He's the favorite. Why don't I get it? Why does he always get it? Blah, 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 blah. And the story builds. Now you're in a story about you and about life and about your brother and about others and about your parents. And do they love me? So it doesn't take a huge tragedy. And people have had really, there are people out there who've had horrific things happen to them. And I've got a lot of compassion for them. I'm not discarding it as impactful at the time. But the real impact is what you decided. And that's what we call limiting beliefs without realizing they're limiting us.
That's actually a really great point. I haven't even gotten to any of the questions that I thought I would ask yet. So, which is great, because, this is probably one of the most important conversations and topics for people to understand and explore for themselves. Most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want, because they don't know themselves. They haven't taken the time to truly, figure out who they are and what they're about and why they want what they want so they can go get it. In fact, I want to dig in more on that. Let's take just a quick, 1 minute break. We'll be back and we'll get into that. Misfit Entrepreneurs, I want to tell you about an amazing resource that will have tremendous impact on your business and your revenue. I have used this solution in multiple businesses and it has made an incredible difference. Let me start by asking you something. Do you know how much it costs your business when just one salesperson doesn't step up to deliver? Do you really know? The cost can easily exceed 6 figures for just one bad hire, not just from the time, effort, and resources in hiring them, but from the lost business and downtime as well, as you have to go find a new salesperson and everything surrounding that. And the last thing any growing business can afford is to have a failed hire, especially in sales, the revenue driver for the company. But what if there was a way to know someone checked all the boxes of a great sales hunter and closer before you ever hired them? That's the solution that I found from a company called Sales Drive. They have created a solution called Drive Test. It's a powerful hiring tool that separates high-performance salespeople from pretenders by measuring the most critical personality trait needed for success in sales: drive. Drive is composed of 3 non-teachable traits shared by all top producers: the need for achievement, competitiveness, and optimism. And knowing who has drive before the interview dramatically increases your chances of selecting salespeople who will produce for you while avoiding those costly bad hires. I've used the solution and it works. In fact, it works so well, I've referred them to every company that I work with. And they've created a very special offer so that you can try them for free as well. You can get a free drive test assessment today at www.misfitentrepreneur.com/sales drive. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/sales drive, all one word. Start using the drive test in your hiring and never hire a bad salesperson again. Okay, so Will, we've been talking about, right, the kind of being a prisoner of your own mind without even knowing it in a lot of ways, right? And it's the past, like trauma or experiences, or even just things that were said to us, or even a little thing that can be done that can be put into that filing cabinet that I was talked about, and that becomes your automatic response to things. I've seen you've used this analogy of like a fish that doesn't know it's swimming in water.
Yeah.
And so like explain that. Like, how does someone begin to see the water that they're swimming in further, and continue to like work in like I said, people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want, because they don't know
Yes.
themselves. So it's like the beliefs, the constraints that in a way are invisible to them that they need to reshape for themselves.
Yeah, well, you can start with simple observations of yourself. Like, look, I've got this beautiful house. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got a swimming pool. I've got great kids. I've got enough money, but I just don't feel satisfied. I just like, it's just not enough. Great. That's all you need to start the inquiry. Because now you're like, well, how come? How come I'm not like, so there's something I'm not seeing about me in this situation. There's something I'm not seeing about me in my life that's having me have this feeling, this experience of it's not enough. Is it not enough? Or why is it not enough? When is it ever going to be enough? Or so there are clues, right? That would have you start to, start to ask the kind of questions that we talk about. Or there you are in a relationship. Here we are, it's your third marriage, and it's going the same way as they all go. How come? I marry someone, they start out like this, and then they turn into that person. What is going on? Well, it looks like you just keep picking the wrong person. Whereas when you're able to look at over here, who am I? See, this is a very good question. Who am I being that they're reacting to me this way? Now, this is not about blame. This is about putting myself at the center of what's happening and being able to own it, which gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of power. But I don't mean force. I just mean able to be you. So, in relationships, one of the things I discovered, I'm the youngest of three boys. And, I hated being the youngest because they teased me about being the youngest. You're spoiled, they spoil you, and like this. So I had this real detesting of being told what to do. And I didn't realize, tell me what to do. I'm the boss, blah, 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 blah. As a little kid, right? But it kind of got ingrained there. So there I am in a relationship, and I feel like the girl's telling me what to do. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of here. This is not a relationship for me. I don't want this. This is not what I want. It's automatic. But if I can get that all the way back to being a child, which I did in my previous relationship, and we're really good friends, right? I would say, hang on. You're telling me what to do right now? I'm starting to react. And she go, no, I'm not telling you what to do. We've got this, this, and this. I go, oh, all right, great. Okay, good. But that's all. Once you've got this thing identified, that's all you need to do. You need to call it, own up to it, and like that, Another one in relationships, like that, I told you about the thing when I was 3, like this experience of not being wanted, right? That showed up obviously in relationships. I would question the person I was in a relationship with. Like, why are they in a relationship with me? What is it they want? They can't want me. It's not me they want. I don't feel like they really want me. It's they want something about me. Maybe it's because they get this lifestyle with me, or I don't know, maybe because I'm funny. I don't know, But do they really want me? But when I got that whole thing sorted out, it's like, well, here we are. We're just here together, It's not about do they want me? It's that I have that feeling. Like you said, that filing cabinet, something will happen that triggers that, and all of a sudden I'm having those feelings and those thoughts.
You got to change the files in the cabinet.
Yeah, and just to get the absurdity of that, there I was with my little dog at the neighbors, and there we are, and the kids are all playing with the dog and everything, and I call the dog over. I go, Bubbles, come here. she pretends to not hear me. She's having a great time. She's loving the attention and getting treats. I'm like, Bubbles. And I go, I have started having this thought. Look, see, there you go. Dogs don't really love you. They're just anyone who feeds them. And I start having all this world opens up of, look, there you go. See, and I go, wait, I catch it, you see, because I'm now trained. So usually I can catch these things. I go, wait, hang on. I'm even doing this with my dog. My dog doesn't want me. My dog doesn't love me. Oh my God, is there no end to this thing? And
That's
super
how you
trained.
become a prisoner in your own mind, by doing that to yourself.
And you don't, if you haven't done some of this work and got yourself started to get practiced and play around with it, it's real. That's real. And people end relationships.
Yeah. And, awareness is the catalyst to change for anybody, right? So, I mean, just even understanding that this exists and becoming aware to it, you start to catch some of those things. But, there's probably a lot of people that are watching or listening to this that are, they've done the books, they've done the seminars, the affirmations, all the different stuff. And, and they feel like they're still stuck. And so there's a difference between like consuming personal development type, things, and then actually transforming and doing the work. So what's your advice for somebody to go from consuming to action on this?
Yeah, well, that's why I put exercises in my book.
Give us a couple more of those exercises so people can crystallize this for themselves.
Let's see. Well, that's hard to do because I don't have the book in front of me, right? So each one's relative to the thing we're talking about at the time. So, if you have that particular aspect that we're talking about, let's say I had one, right, where people would say,
let's use imposter syndrome. A lot of people have imposter syndrome. Like they're not good enough to make the money that they are making or should be making or so on.
Yeah,
so
very good.
How does somebody deal with imposter syndrome? Because that's a big thing for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, well, I would break it down rather than call it imposter syndrome. I said, well, what do you mean by imposter? What is it you're saying to yourself? What are the thoughts you're having? Tell me more about it. I have to hear what they're saying because something will come out their mouth and I'll hear it because it has a certain, I don't know, it's just, once you've done this enough, you can hear things, right? But if you're reading the book, I'm asking those questions, right? So I can give you a really good example. I was working with a scientist and he'd figured out this way for people to lose weight that was all healthy and they had a microbiome reset by the end of it. So they didn't crave the wrong foods after that, the sugar and the carbohydrates and all of that stuff, So I bet he would get people who are grossly overweight and reduce it. And he said, it's a 12-month program. You go do the whole program. And he had like 70 clients. And I said, well, how much are you charging these things? And he was charging them a couple of $100 each. I said, that's crazy. You should be charging at least $2,000 each person, at least. And he goes, oh, no, it's easy for me. I mean, I don't want to manipulate anybody. And, it's just, I can just do it and like this. But he's working longer and longer hours and feeling more and more frustrated with the whole thing. I said, right, okay. You just said something there. You said manipulated. See, that's the word I heard. So tell me about that, manipulated. Have you been manipulated? Have you seen other people manipulated? Or, where's that come from? No accident you said that. He goes, oh, all the time. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He said, look, I got two of the professors together to create this business idea that we wanted to work on. And then behind my back, they both got together, went off, stole the idea and left me out of it. And it was my idea. I said, right now. You see, I'm listening. He's all charged up right now, you see. I said, right now, that feeling, all of that, what does that remind you of? Way back in the past, when you're little. And he went, oh my God. This memory came back from when he was 11 years old. And he worshipped his godfather. He used to go see his godfather, hang out, give him candy, give him some money at the end of it and all of that. But this one particular time, he overstepped the mark. He put some pornography on and did some stuff. And at the end of it, he felt like really weird and shocked and confused. And the guy still gave him some money. I said, good. Now, what did you decide right there? He goes, I'm wrong. It's my fault. I'm messed up. There's something wrong with me. Okay. And what about the money? Oh, yeah. Nobody's going to own me. Now, how's that played itself out in life? So you go back there. Now you can see how that's played out. He goes, oh, my God. He said, I working in a corporation and working in a big organization, and they'd start throwing bonus checks at me and giving me promotions. And I'm like, I can't deal with it. And he would leave. He kept go to a different organization, doing really well. They'd start paying him more money or wanting to pay more money, and he would leave. He couldn't be with it. Now, it was also in relationships because he thought there was something wrong with him, and his relationships never worked out. In that one conversation, it's like his whole life got sorted out. Now he just saw it for what it is. He immediately put his prices up. He was immediately able to take somebody on to take all these clients that it was just repeating, saying what he was saying. So he didn't have to do that. So now everything got taken care of. He earned 3-4 times more money, working hardly any of the time with those people anymore. They were losing weight because he got trained other people to do it. And last I heard, he was in a great relationship.
Yeah. So that's a great example. And it is personal to each person. I think the money's always a good example because it's something that everybody has to deal with, and the relationship or each person's relationship to money. But I've seen it before. You mentioned it too. Like, it's amazing how it's like people won't charge what they're worth for the value that they give because they don't think they're valuable enough to give it. That's maybe some of that imposter syndrome. And so that's why they charge the price they charge, and they're selling themselves short. And I think that's another great thing, like even for entrepreneurs, is like, what is the real value you're delivering, and are you truly charging what that value is worth? And if not, then you got to have a hard look at yourself, because it's you that's holding it back more than anything. And there's something there that basically is saying you wouldn't pay that because you're not worth that, right? That's keeping you from getting that. And I think that's a great point. We've got a few minutes left, and like I said, there's so many questions I want to get to. I'm not going to get to them all, but
we can have a part 2 at some point in the future. No problem.
One of the ones that I did want to ask, though, and I did want to get in, because I do think it's relevant, and I think it helps people too to look at how past experience can really help them with this as well too, not just affect it, but actually lean on to help them. Like, what did flying teach you, right? Because military, you're in the military, you're flying, and you're doing missions and all that stuff. So there's life or death, there's split second decision making, there's all of that. But like, what did flying teach you about the human mind that you would say most people never learn? Like, what was some of the correlation that things from flying that really made a difference to help you on this journey?
Man, there's like 3 things spring to mind, right? One is the fear. There's a time where I thought felt like I was going to die, but all I was doing was having an instrument rating. Do you know what I mean? I was being tested, right? And I was able to harness that fear and just get it for what it is and push it down and think over the top of it. Let it all be, but I don't think it's very healthy, right? But you stuff it in your body and you can think even though you're afraid. Just because you're afraid doesn't have to stop. Doesn't have to stop you saying what you need to say, doing what you need to do, looking and being able to think. It's hard to think when you're all, caught up in the emotion and the feelings and all of that stuff. So it's being able to have that and not let it cloud your judgment. I mean, you're flying a fighter jet. It's you need every ounce of brain power that you've got, right? So that's one thing. Second thing was always be looking ahead. Always be looking like, what's next? What's next? Okay, good. We're coming up to, all right, we're going to join that airfield. Okay, I've got the papers. I've got the plates, right, for that approach. Okay, what runway are they? All right, going to need this approach. So you're always planning ahead because things going so fast. You can't be arriving then trying to figure something out. You've got to have thought of it in head and ahead. And that really works in business. That really works when you're leading programs to people. You can't just be in the moment. Well, you've got to be in the moment, but you've also got to be what's next. What's next? So I think it's a good metaphor for whole of life. And then the third thing was, always fly the airplane. People talk about multitasking, right? Multitasking is a bit of a myth. You can only actually look at one thing at once, So when you fly an airplane, you've got what we call the horizon in the middle, like they look like gull's wings, right? Like that, right? So you got the horizon, then you got the height, and then you got the rate of ascent or descent, and then you got the heading, right? And then you got the yaw as well. So you've got the different instruments around you. But what you have to do is keep flying the airplane. So you stay on this and then look at that thing and come back to this. You stay on this, look at that thing and come back to this. So it's like a radial scan, right? Now, if you get into where that breaks down typically is when there's an emergency. Let's say you got an engine on fire, or you're in a training environment, they say your engine's on fire. Now what? So then people go into the checklist and and say, okay, now look up, and boom, you're about to fly into a hillside, right? Because you forgot to fly the airplane. So the first rule is fly the airplane. So if you're in an interaction with a person, first rule is be with the person. You can go off but if they're not listening, or if they're not with you, or if you notice that something's happening with them, you got to be with the person, because this is what it's all for. Everything we're doing, it's for the person in front of you. I'm talking about leading programs. But if you're in a business deal, you've got to be with the person, you know? So those are the three things I suppose, come a little bit from flying, right? I can make that analogy, that cross.
No, that's great. All three. I think all three of those are really good. And yeah, and it's where your focus goes, success flows, right? So if you
Right.
if you aren't focused on the right things, you're not going to get the results you want anyway. So I think the last one was a really great point. And it kind of brings me to the last question I have before we get to your Misfit 3. And that is, through all the work you've done, across the world, all different types of individuals, worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I admit this is not an easy question, but when it comes to entrepreneurs, what's the number one thing you found that they can act on, like, and take, like, from today and start making a difference from themselves? What's the number one thing that they could just start doing that would make the biggest difference for themselves going forward?
Very good. It's like what is the thing to keep your eye on? I think you've got to know what's important. There's lots of things that seem important. There's lots of things that come in that want your attention. And I think Steve Jobs said this a really good way, right? He would have three things. Those three things, no matter what, those have got to happen today. And all the rest is like noise. So in the midst of all of that, what's happening, you've got to keep your eye on what's really important. I said, like, fly the airplane. You stay ahead. What's next? Or check on the horizon. Like, you've got loads of things you could be doing. People are sending you emails all the time. I work with entrepreneurs to get them out of all of that so they can just look at the big picture, right? But in the meantime, if that's not where you're at, keep your eye on what's important. You have to keep reassessing that, because things are coming in all the time, and you've got to go, wait. I often have entrepreneurs that are overwhelmed, right? They come to me and they're just overwhelmed, got all this shit to do, and you haven't got it done. And I can go, stop. Get a pad of paper, okay? And just write down everything that's on your mind that you've got to get done that you're not getting done. So write it all out. Okay, good. Now, look at that. I want you to number the top priority and then go down from there. What's the one most thing that has to happen? One. Okay. And the next most thing, two, three. And then you number them down in order of priority. And how many of those can you get done today? This many. Okay, great. Let's say that's three. Okay, the others, can you put them in your schedule? Okay. And the others, you're not going to get to yet. All right. So there's people you need to let know that you're not going to get to yet, or have someone call those people and say, we're not going to get to that yet. Can't even say when it's going to get to that yet. We will let you know by this date when we're going to get to it, if we're going to get to it, So one moment you've got it black and white, all that craziness stops. It's like, now I got what's so. You've got the horizon. You can see, So
Yeah,
that would be the
I
one
love
thing.
that. It's one of my favorite, things that I've figured out over the years. Anytime I'm overwhelmed or my mind feels stretched and I don't feel like I'm hitting the mark, I just, like, stop and I write everything down I just let it all flow. And I look at it and categorize and then say, okay, what's the top action I need to take from here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I do that until I'm done with it. Then I move on to the next one. I don't try and do multiple at the same time like that. It's like, okay, here's number one. We do that until it's done. Number two, and so on. And it works. It really is it makes a huge difference in just your life, your success, and all that stuff. So I love that point. It's a great way to end it before we get to your Misfit 3. So we're going to do that. We're going to take just one more 1-minute break. We'll be right back with Will's Misfit 3.
Misfits. People ask me all the time about tools that I use in my life and business to maximize my success. I usually start by telling them one of my most powerful tools is my morning habits. And of course, they look at me somewhat confused. I then explain how important it is for me to center myself and how I begin my day and plan for my success. It's critical to consistent high performance. And it doesn't take me long, about 5 or 10 minutes, because I use a great resource called the 5-Minute Journal. The 5-Minute Journal is the simplest, most effective way I've ever found to start your day in the right mindset, doing the right things, and set yourself up for success. And it is exactly what it says, a 5-minute exercise you can do each day. Let me ask you, if you could reach your next level in your life and business by spending just 5 minutes of focused time a day, would you do it? I bet you would. And I know it works because I've experienced the power of it. And you can get your 5-minute journal simply by going to www.misfitentrepreneur.com/journal. That's misfitentrepreneur.com/journal. Do what I do. Use this amazing resource to give yourself an edge in your performance and your success. Get your 5-minute journal today.
Okay, it's time for Will's Misfit 3. These are the 3 things that he wants you to take that you can put in your life, your business, make a difference for yourself starting today. And the way that I always frame this to every guest that comes on the show is I say, hey, look, if you were going to leave this earth tomorrow, and you could only leave behind your 3 best pieces of wisdom to the generations that come after you to help them live their best life, what would those 3 things be? So, Will, what are your Misfit 3?
Well, the first one is relax. Just breathe. It all works out in the end. It does all work out. Even if you lose everything and yep, it's terrible. You'll get through it. And there is, sunshine after rain. It doesn't seem like it when you're in the middle of it, but trust me, it all works out. How do we know? It's worked out so far. Here you are. Just trust the process. Whatever's happening, as people say this great thing, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And if you can kind of get that attitude, see the picture, see the lesson, even the bad things that happen, quote unquote, bad things can turn out to be really great things in the lesson. So that was the first thing, just relax. Okay. Second, and this is a bit more difficult if you like, just be yourself. Be you. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try and you've got to do it like them or you've got to be them. No, be you. Be the best version of you, the most authentic version of you that you can be. And use all the tools you can to get to and strip away what you're not, what's not really you, what you're having to force or what you're having to pretend or what you're having to make up for. Just be you. That's my book. My book is called Free to Lead, which means get rid of all the stuff that's not you till you really get back to the real you. And from there, create your leadership. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is I think I've had this my whole life, is just don't sell out for the easy option. Don't take the easy option just because it's easier.
That's that last one is a great piece of advice because too often people do that. And some of that's just because of the way our society is. We live in this instant society where, everything's right now. In fact, I often joke, we stop the microwave with 3 seconds left. We can't even wait 3 seconds anymore. And so there's this, those that play the long game win. And that is something that has absolutely shown through with all the entrepreneurs that have come on this show. And so that's, that piece of advice, I think is really important to continue sticking with it, not sacrifice the real prize, the bigger long-term game for the short term, because anytime you do that, you miss out. And I think that's a great last one to end it with. If people do want to learn more about you, where should they go?
willsteele.com. That's STEEL. So it's willsteele, all one word. willsteele.com. You can go there for my website. I've also got my own podcast, Free to Lead, and the book, Free to Lead. I wrote it. I mean, I don't care about the sales of it. I don't care about the money about it. I just want people to read it and do the exercise and get it and be able to go back and get it and get it and get it and get it again. So it's my gift to the world. I am very pleased with it. It does work. It's complete. So you can get that on Amazon.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link to the site and everything in the show notes so that people could find it. The best show notes in the business. I'll talk about more in a second and have a little surprise for everybody about what's going on there too. But first, for those of you that are new to Misfit Nation, your first episode with us, welcome. If this is obviously your first time watching or listening, is so great to have you. And I hope you become a regular listener, a regular subscriber. And for all of you that are with us week in and week out, I cannot thank you enough for your support of the show. You are what makes this go in over 100 different countries every single week. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And make sure you can go out and check out the show notes for this episode. They are the best in the business. Why? Because I do them myself as part of my personal growth routine. Every single week I go back through these episodes and I pick and choose and collate the best pieces of wisdom, advice, and stuff that I'm finding, and I give those to you. In fact, right now we've just redone the website for the Misfit Entrepreneur. We're working on a whole new show notes area. So right now you're not going to see them, but we're going to have a lot of them up here soon, and they're going to have a new format and a lot of other really great things for you with that. So stay tuned for that, and then go out and give this episode a rating and review, like and comment on it. Help share Will's message, because we all know, and I say this in every episode, one great episode can change someone's life. Maybe something that Will shared today was that missing link you were looking for to get to your next level. So share this with others. And again, Will, thank you for coming on and spending the time today and sharing all of your wisdom and your insight.
It's my pleasure. It was a joy to be with you and take your questions and get challenged myself to come up with answers that people could relate to.